You've been in the coffee industry for 35 years. You've been roasting for 25 years.
Yes.
Ever seen a shop lose because of Starbucks or a big chain moving in close by?
Chains. Chains are always a threat. We got one moving. Starbucks is moving up with a big box store just a quarter mile from one of our stores right now.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. You're always apprehensive. You're always a little fearful. It makes it a little more convenient for us because we have multiple locations. We're more diversified with roasting, and so it doesn't scare me as much as it used to. But it's still always a threat. We've never had to close a store because of competition moving in next to us.
Yeah.
I guess a big part of that is because we've always chose good locations, and I've seen a lot of small operators like us, and they didn't choose good locations, and it costs a lot of money to move. And
Yeah.
I know one chain here in town. They've moved. I can count on my hand that they have 3 stores. They've moved 4 times since we've been around. They're still in business, but you just got to recoup that reinvestment and build out.
Yeah.
You do it right the first time. You cross all the T's and dot all the I's on the front end and have a good plan. You'll have a good location. That's the biggest part of it. Then if competition moves in around you, you don't have as much to worry about. So, but it's always a major concern, especially for an entrepreneur, because you're digging and scraping and, got your blood and sweat into it. And it's very endearing to you as an owner, an entrepreneurial owner.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, rarely have I seen a Starbucks or a Caribou or a Dutch Brothers or a Scooters or a 7 Brew put another coffee house out of business. I can't recall maybe a couple situations that I've seen over 30 years.
Yeah, and it's probably more logistical if it does. Like, I don't know, if you're downtown on the second story, like in a skywalk when the Starbucks moves like on the street level or something where you are almost like a super afterthought.
Yeah.
I mean, a situation like that, I think, is where a Starbucks or any coffee shop will
Good point.
directly threaten one. But like, you've been somewhere for 10 years and a Starbucks pops up, I don't think that's much of a cause for concern.
I would agree. But do you feel a little concerned about the Starbucks move from one of our stores? Better location.
Yeah,
Drive-through.
a little bit. I mean,
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
any
Yeah.
fear I have, I think it can go the other way where it will just bring that much more coffee attention to that street.
Now, we did have a Caribou moved in on that street about a half a mile north of us. And they didn't survive.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we
it's
did.
it's always coming and going. And they need a lot less. We need a lot less than a chain
Yeah.
to succeed.
Well, our
Typically.
margins are, we don't have, that's an interesting thought right there. We don't have the, a board, or we're not a publicly held company where we got to show profits in a certain way. To close a store, our margins would have to be less than a major chain. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think the fear of chains is getting better or worse over the last couple decades?
Well, the chains that are opening up freestanding stores have really engaged a new dynamic in the market. They have attracted a different consumer, a younger consumer in a lot of cases. And the energy drinks have really taken off well for them. So that threat is there, but our menu is totally different than it was 30 years when we opened. We didn't have any iced nothing iced on the menu.
Yeah.
Except for an Italian soda. That was it. Now over half of our drinks go out iced or chilled or blended. So the market, adapting to market change and having your ear close to the road is critical.
Yeah. So if you walk into a new coffee shop in the first 60 seconds, what
60 seconds.
is a sign that they will, what is a make or break, deal breaker?
Okay.
What is a deal breaker that you see if you walk in a new shop that you will notice in the first 60 seconds?
60 seconds. Okay, got to get there. Got to get in. Okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm walking in the door. Did I get greeted by the barista? Were they more interested in an existing customer than me walking through the door? The attitude of the barista is critical, and the dress of the barista has to fit in with the culture of the neighborhood. It has to feel like a neighborhood built store. There has to be certain elements that exist there that don't exist in, say, a box store. Well, we remodeled our one of our stores, and there was a school that had all these bleacher boards that they had torn down out of a local school that we repurposed and built all of our counters and some of our bench seating out of repurposed bleacher boards. Still have the numbers on it.
Yeah.
I noticed one thing on those numbers. I don't think you could sit the typical American today as close as those numbers are.
Yeah.
I think we're a little bigger.
A little bigger now.
At least I am.
Can't
About
quite
you.
fit on the numbers.
Well, your shoulders are big.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one specific thing, culture is obviously the biggest thing, but espresso grinders, I think if you look at those, you can kind of tell compared to a espresso machine, like if they just dropped 30 grand on an espresso machine, like that doesn't tell you a whole lot. Like whether they just have deep pockets or they really know their stuff. But
Yeah.
if someone has used equipment everywhere, but they have top of the line espresso grinders, I think that would be a tell that whoever puts it together really knows what they're doing.
No, you're right. The grind is essential. It's more critical than basically all the espresso machine does. It gets hot, it steams milk, and it creates pressure. 9 bars, pull in a shot, whatever seconds fit your bean profile. That's what it does. And if you dial that espresso machine, they'll want to tweak them, but like you nailed it. The grind is more important than the espresso machine. And we do invest. We get top grinders in all of our stores.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I just thought I'd kind of throw that out there. So what are the hidden costs of adding a drink to the menu? Like if you see something like matcha right now or energy drinks, it seems so obvious to add a trend. So what are the hidden costs that owners don't think of?
You might be better prepared to answer this, but let me give it a shot. I think you have, a real wise businessman told me, it was actually Rich Brew, the owner of Brugger's Bagels. He said he's constantly looking, goes back a years, but I don't know that this philosophy changes. He said he was always looking for ways to make his menu smaller. Mm-hmm. And I've never forgotten that. I think you add drinks, okay, it's just like buying new clothes. What are you going to get rid of? You bought something, what are you going to get rid of? You add something to the menu, where's the bottom feeder? What are you going to bump off? And waiting to see if that new menu item gets traction. I think about, we go down to the Ozarks a lot. I bet we've been down there 30, 40 times in the past 30 years, 25 years. Hiking and camping and canoeing and kayaking and spelunking and just everything down in northern Arkansas. We go through Missouri, we see Andy's frozen custard. And I can remember when driving through before they've shifted gears and went out into opening more stores. Their menu board was ginormous. I mean, you look at it and you couldn't figure out where to even start. I remember just driving up to the window and could I just get an Andy's double dip vanilla custard cone? That's all I ever got because their menu was always so big and comprehensive.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever focused on one thing. What are your thoughts? I mean, you're the retail guru.
Yeah, we're
You
trying
and
to
Haley and Abby, you guys are on the cutting edge. What's your thoughts?
we're trying to do that right now. Like matcha is something we have, but we haven't caught onto the trend. I think it would have to be a bigger decision than we can make right now. And we have like energy drinks, which we've always kind of pushed, but not as much as some of these other people having more success with it. Smoothies are something we're really dialing down. Anything in a blender, we're trying to dial down right now.
Yeah, takes extra time. Once you hit the blender, you've almost doubled the time for the drink.
Yeah. And just realizing that like vanilla and a vanilla latte and a caramel latte and just a regular latte, those are like the top 3 sellers. And you don't need to get complicated. You can just...
But don't you see some value though to mixing it and showing something fresh?
Yeah, but then it sticks out more if you have less too.
Yeah, you're right. There's a balance, and it just takes sharp people guiding that. And that's why I'm glad you and your team are doing
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, that's what we've done recently. It all just kind of goes back to simplifying things and pushing what you do well. And the less you have, the more those things stick out.
Yeah, they do.
Because you don't have to push a vanilla latte. Every coffee shop has one. But if you do push it, then just make sure you kind of stay on top of that. And yeah.
Well, then it is to if you do offer but then there are trends. A trend doesn't necessarily mean it's going to a trend. Some trends become a staple, like cold brew.
Yeah.
That was a trend. Now it's a staple. It's a huge part of our our volume at our stores. But then you do have to experiment with trends because you never know exactly what is going to stick with the consumer.
Yeah.
So I think offering and showing that you're on the edge, trying and experimenting, even if it might be something that is not going to be sustainable on your menu.
Yeah. I think that's where kind of the health drinks, the function drinks, like the mushroom and chaga drinks, like it shows that you're on the front end of things, even if it's not going to be your biggest seller. It shows your customers like we're actually learning things and improving. We're not just kind of going with everything just because that's how it is. So, yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, another point. So, another question. If you had to put a number to it, how many drinks should a well-operated coffee shop? Well, I guess drinks or number. How many drinks or how much revenue should a just baseline good coffee shop make it?
I remember years ago, the rule of thumb was, this goes back a long time. If you could attract a buyer for your store if you were doing if you were doing 300,000 plus a year. So I would say a minimum that a coffee needs to sustain would be $350,000 a year. That would be $1,000 a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Would get you to $350,000 a year. That would be I think that would be a good benchmark.
Yeah, I think I think that's across the board. You can say some shops obviously are well suited to make a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But I don't think any coffee shop, honestly, worth opening, any coffee shop can hit that number. I think there are coffee shops that need to hit much more than that, but every coffee shop needs to hit $1,000 a day to support the people running it.
And that's if you have a build-out that's a very economical build-out.
Yeah.
And you can build out pretty cheap. I know we priced out a store And it was impossible for us to go into, but we had it all. We had an architect involved and finance involved. It was a great location, but it was a $3 million project.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's what Starbucks pays, $350,000. You know, there would be no way we could survive. I mean, 303.
3.5 million.
Yeah, there's no way, not even close, that we could do that, or anybody. You know, Starbucks is like, they're building buildings that if they do go out, you know, their building can be suited for something. Now, Starbucks just built a brand new store in a northern suburb of our city. They built it out, you know, $3 million project. They built it out about 3 years ago, and they closed it last year after 2 years in operation.
Yeah.
So they can't even sustain their build-outs.
Yeah,
So, and
that's
it's sitting
crazy.
there. I don't know what's going to go in there.
Yeah. What do you think of identity for independent coffee shops? What is a good, clear identity look like?
Oh, it can look.
Or does it matter?
You know, it does matter to some extent. You know, you can separate yourself from the box stores because they're not going to adapt to they adapt to a broad culture. I know we built out one of our stores, and I remember we bought, what was it, 20 years ago maybe, we bought $40,000 worth of furniture from Sticks, you know, a furniture manufacturer, and you know, we still have some of that, you know, and that was just building a local vibe. People knew Sticks. They were popular. They were trendy. They were, you know, they're not as popular today. We still use some of that in our stores, but we've really adapted our stores. Once you get traction, you don't necessarily need as much identity, but coming straight out of the chute, boy, it really helps if you can identify with the neighborhood and the city and the state that you're in.
Yeah.
That's my thought. What do you think? You have any
Yeah,
thoughts on
having something that keeps you separate. I mean, I think there's so many ways to do it. I don't think you need money to do it.
that? You're right.
Like I think of our 42nd Street store, the artwork is just local art, and we just put up pallets on the wall to hang art on, and that's it. So you don't need to have like the best furniture or the best lighting and music and counters and everything. I think just having something that's intentional probably.
Yeah. But all those things help. you
Yeah,
know.
they do.
I know we have great lighting and great music systems in all of our stores.
Yeah,
All the little
they
things
do.
help. And those things don't cost a lot of money to do. And I think what you just said, identifying with the community, let the schools become part of your store, let local people become part of your store. You know, especially at 42nd Street store, there's so many, you know, the guy that does the bobbleheads internationally and nationally lives right in that neighborhood. The guy that co-hosts with, is it Jimmy Fallon?
Yeah.
He's like from 5 blocks. He grew up 5 blocks east of our 42nd Street store. The guy that does stunt doubles for Jack Nicholson, neighborhood guy, artist, lives in that neighborhood. You know, and his art is on our walls. He draws pictures of all of our employees. They were on the walls at one point. You know, it's just those
cool
things
spot.
can really help.
Yeah. Yeah, last point. If there is a coffee shop owner listening who is struggling, whether it be financially or something else in the industry, what would you tell them?
A lot of times what happens is a small shop, the owner's not present, or they don't think they need to be present. The owner's presence in any type of a small operation is critical. And it's going to be a different, just simple as that is, the store is going to have a different feel, a different vibe if the owner is there present. And that's what the successful ones do. And, you know, it's sometimes it's hard to do. You got to juggle things. You know, we've all started off on a shoelace, and business, you think it gets easier as you grow,
Yeah.
but you still have the same pressures, the same financial pressures, they still have the same payroll pressures. But if you open up a store, and if you're an entrepreneur, you have to push in all your chips, and that risk, it's scary. I've done it so many times that pushing in all your chips and giving, very, very scary. But you have to do it. And the big thing is, when you, as an entrepreneur and you have to take a risk. Risks are just part of how you live and breathe, and those risks keep you up at night. But if you manage those risks successfully, that is what a true entrepreneur needs to do, and a business owner.
Yeah.
You push in all of your chips, you take the risk, and then you manage those risks. I know several, there's a restaurant chain here in town that, I knew the owner, I was friends with the owner. Boy, and a tremendous entrepreneur, took great risks, but didn't manage those risks well.
Yeah.
Now completely out of business. I was lived next door to another company, a company, another restaurant company. There's a former brand here in town called Legends. Took great risks, but they didn't manage those risks and evolve properly. The stores got, a beat up kind of a look over time. I don't want to name drop. I could name drop a lot of people, but I don't want to come back to bite me, because I just feel I know how hard it is to be in business.
Yeah.
It's brutal, because you're always on the cusp. You're always thinking about the risks that you've taken, if they're calculated well enough and managed well enough to sustain yourself for another year, 2 years, 5 years. So.
Yeah.
But I'd say, push in your chips, get in there, work the store, give it your best shot.
Yeah. Definitely.
What do you think? Is that?
Yeah, I feel like anytime I'm in that situation, it's just so much easier just to get involved, because you're just worrying about it and thinking about it. And instead of doing that, just getting in, and it's either it's not going to be worse than what you think it is. It's either there, and it's much less of an issue, much less complicated. It's just maybe a conversation or two and maybe a couple changes, but just getting in and doing the work.
I think the consumer wants to see the owner there.
That too, yeah.
But what do you say about an entrepreneur? I remember you said being an entrepreneur is like, you had a quote from...
I think it was Elon Musk. He said, it's like staring into an abyss and eating glass.
I love that. Elon, I remember you said that. I forgot all about that till I knew you said something that was just kind of like really cut to my gut.
Yeah.
It's like staring into an abyss and eating glass.
Yeah.
So you want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good note to end on.
Yeah, it is. Well, no, hey, you can do it. It's fun. It's rewarding. You're the boss. You don't answer to the man. The man is the banker, actually, and you answer to the consumer. But I couldn't think of anything more rewarding than being a small business person, entrepreneur, leader. I actually love it. So. Yeah,
Sweet.
You do too.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.